Yes, we are recording. Cool. Continue. Okay. Getting started with WordPress, the second class. So during the first class, we talked about our domain names, subdomains. We got a domain for the class site that we built. We got hosting for that. And then in talking about how we would go about building a site, and we decided that WordPress was going to be the platform we used, obviously, because this is a WordPress class. So with WordPress, what you have to do and have to build WordPress. I'm going to get my little cursor to highlight. There we go. What you have to do for a WordPress class, or sorry, start over with that one. To build a WordPress site, you need to have a theme, and we downloaded and installed the Astra theme. You also have to have some plugins to go along with that. And part of our plugins, we had a template plugin that went with the Astra theme. We also had a builder, which is the Elementor builder. We'll talk a little bit more about that today. Some security plugins, we did one, and other plugins, we're going to talk about other plugins today. The other thing that you need, obviously, is all of your content. And we built a couple of pages or did some edits on pages, and you guys had pages to edit. Allie did a beautiful job on the page that she played with. I'll show you guys that in a bit. And so what we're going to do today, quick review of the WordPress dashboard. We're going to look at the WordPress settings that we didn't have a chance to look at last time in customizing their appearance, the media library, menus, widgets, do some page edits, and look at plugins. So with all of that in mind, let me jump over to, where is my dashboard? Okay. So when we log on to our WordPress website, and at any time, if you guys have questions or anything, okay, we're just checking on that one. Please yell out or type the question in the chat. So on the dashboard, here is the site that we were building. If you click this, you can click this drop down that says view the site. And that will give you a view as to what it looks like while it keeps this edit menu on top. I'm going to go back to look at the rest of this. Adding new pages or posts from here, some other things. These are related to some of our plugins. What we're going to talk about briefly today is the media library. We looked at the pages, and we could see all the individual pages and add new pages. Comments, this would be if you had a blog post and needed comments. These are settings and information about the Elementor builder that we used. A quick thing about builders, again, you really need one. It makes it a lot easier. I chose to use Elementor for this class because it has a free version, and we'll look a little later on at the difference between the free version and the not free version. You can actually create and save templates. We're going to talk about how you customize, let me get there, how you customize your theme, the widgets, and the menu, and then we will look at some of the plugins. So with all of that being said, let's take a quick look at our customizing. So when you go into your WordPress customization, this is where you can customize all kinds of different things and actually get them to set globally. So if you want to set the global all the way across the website, the typography, the colors, this is the container, the size of each of these sections that the site sits in, and any of your buttons, this is where you would do that. So just to give you a quick idea, we'll take a look at typography. This is the basic type versus the headers. So the difference between that would be, these are headers, and some of your basic type would just be paragraph information. This is where you would change that. If we wanted to change the basic typography for our paragraphs, this is where we would do that. And if we wanted to change all of the basic typography for our H tags, which would be any of our headings, this is where we would do that. So we're not going to take too much time on all these individual things so that we have time for some of the things that are a little bit more important. So if we jump down to the header builder, this is where you actually can create this header that sits at the top, and you'll see a couple things on this header builder page. You'll look on the left-hand menu and you'll see that it has logo button and primary menu and transparent heading settings, but you'll also look down at the bottom here and you'll see logo, primary menu, and button, which matches the logo up here, the primary menu, and the button. These are the same things that are over here. So one of two ways, I could click here or I could click here to say, I want to change my logo or add a logo if you are putting a logo in from a template that already has the standard logo. On the side here, you see there's the logo that I put in. It would be as simple as click change logo. It's going to bring up your media library if your logo is already in there, which this one is. If it's not, you would click upload files and then upload your logo from your computer wherever you have it stored. So I'm going to close that because we've already got a logo in there. You'll notice that this particular logo is transparent behind the font and this little graphic. That is a transparent ping that I built in Photoshop. If it were a JPEG logo, actually let's just put one on there just for the fun of it so you can see what would happen. Let's see if we can find anything that may not be, this is probably not. Let's see. While we're in here, I'll show you a little bit about the media library. I just selected this image. And we're going to look over here, and it is a ping, so my guess is that it is transparent. It tells the size in kilobytes, the dimensions of it. This is alt text. If you were building a website and wanted to make sure that someone could hear information, if they had visual problems, this is where you would put that alt text in. Captions, when you put captions in here, this text will actually show up underneath the picture on your website, no matter when you use that image. Your title, you want to make sure that title is such that it has good information for search engine optimization, is relevant to your title and your website. This is where you would put in a description. These two things, the title and the description, are really important when it comes to your search engine optimization. Let's see, this one, that's going to be a JPEG image. Okay, so if we put that JPEG image, and we can say crop it if we want to crop it. Let's just skip crop. Go back to that, skip crop. And now you can see that there's a white background behind this. If this had been just text in a JPEG image, it would be a white square there. So if you want a logo image or any kind of image that has a transparent background, you're going to need to use a ping image. And I'll also jump down a little bit further on this menu. You see this cool little graphic that I have here. You'll also notice that graphic is at the top of all of these pages. It used to be called a favicon, now it's called a site icon. This is where you put your site icon in. If you build one of those, it needs to be 512 by 512. And this is where you would put the button to go to your media library and change that. If we look at, let's back up from the logo and go to the button, that's the style and the text on this button, and our primary menu. This is the general design of the menu and the size of the menu here. So if, for example, we wanted to change the hover style of it or anything related in that menu, this is where we would do that. We're not going to take the time to go over any of that right now. We're going to look at how to build a menu a little bit later. So that's the basic information about the header builder. We're going to skip down to the footer builder. And you'll see this is across every page on the website we built. And if you were to go into the page that I created for you guys to work on, you would see that you couldn't change it from within that page. And it has to be changed from this footer builder area. And you'll see the same thing here. Here's the footer. And here are sections in relation to that footer, a widget and social icons. There's another widget. We'll talk about what widgets are in a bit. This is all the copyright information. And to change any of this, you either simply click on the tab down here, or you click on the edit part here, and it will take you to the section where you change that. So here we could change this logo under the image. If we minimize that, we want to look at the text, which is here. This is where we would change that text. Just select it and start typing. So that's the basics of how this footer menu is built. Any questions on any of that stuff so far? It's pretty easy. Sometimes you kind of get lost when you go back in there and start looking for it, but it's not real difficult once you find and remember that this area is under appearances customized. So let's take a quick look now at menus and how you actually build a menu, because that's one of the really cool, important things. This template that we set up had a lot of menus in it to start with. It had an About Us and a Connect menu, which are these two that are in this footer. It also had something for her and a for him, and a separate main menu. This was all in relation to the way this site was built for maybe products in this template. But I created a navigation menu, and it's set as the primary menu, which means that is our menu up here across the top. So our primary menu, which was the navigation menu, menu name, primary menu. Oops, let me back up one. We want to go to the navigation menu, not the primary menu. We built the navigation menu to be our primary menu. So you can see all down here is home, about, contact, and practice. And underneath practice, you can see the practice page with all of your initials, which was the same thing here, practice page. And everyone's practice page is listed here. So it's really simple to change these. If we wanted to get rid of one of these, let's say we want to eliminate this extra practice page, click on the drop down and just ask it to remove it. Now when we go up to practice, we can see that practice exercise page has been removed. If we want to rearrange them, it's as simple as clicking and dragging. You can see when I hover over one of these menus, it's got that four-way plus sign. So when you see that four-way plus sign, that's an indication that you can move whatever you hovered over. So let's say we want to take our practice menu list and stick it all the way at the top. And that's going to move it to the far left. Now our practice menu is on the far left, and it's moved everything further over. If we wanted to say, let's take Allie's practice page, and we want it to be, look at the difference if it's hovered just under practice versus if it's in line here with all the other main pages. Now we see that Allie's practice page is a top menu item all by itself. And just grab it again and move it back wherever you want it. If you want to add another page or another menu item, you simply click on Add Items. And then this gives you a list of all of the pages that you have. And right now, all the pages in our website are already up here. But let's say that our home page wasn't up there, or maybe for some reason we want it twice, we'd select the home page and click, and you can see that it put it in again here on the bottom. Now we have the home page here twice. And now we have the home page shows up here twice. So just add an item if you want to add a menu item. And we don't want the home page on there twice, so we can click remove. So that's the real basic information on working on a menu and putting your menu together. And again, if you want to add menu items, here are all the pages that you can choose from. If we had blog posts, we could do them here. And in some of our blog posts and other things, you could have categories and tags. That's where we put all that, but we're not going to go over all of that stuff today. So let's back out of navigation unless you guys have any questions about that. Okay. And back out of menus. One thing that's a really common thing that people get hung up on is the home page settings, because you start to build a website and you build this cool page, but you continue to get this strange blog looking starter page from your template here. So under home page settings, this is where that will change. This is probably one of the most common questions I get asked is, why is my home page not here? So your home page, to display it, do you want it to be your latest post? If you have posts, as in blog posts versus just static pages, or do you want it to be a static page? We wanted ours to be this static page. So that's what we click static page here versus a post. And I don't have any posts on this site, so that's why nothing shows up there. So we click static page. And if you didn't want it to be the page you built as a home page, maybe you occasionally want to change it so you have a different look. That's where you select whatever page you would like to be for your home page when someone types in your main URL. Widgets, real quick, we'll take a quick look at that. To look at them from here, actually, it says, yep, we've got 8 widget areas, and if we want to use them, we need to go to the navigation, because that's where they're set up from, is within the navigation that we looked at earlier. Some templates, you can see them from here, others you can't. Obviously, this one you can't. Okay, Footer Builders menu, I'm making sure we covered everything that I had on my list that I wanted to make sure I showed you guys. Okay, I think that's it on that, unless you have any questions on any of that. Okay, I'm going to back out of this, and you're going to see it says you've made changes, they'll be lost. That's okay, I don't want to keep this cute little plant picture up there. So I'm going to say, nope, I don't want any of those changes saved. And we're going to go back to here. Renee, are you going to use e-commerce also? And Sarah, do you know anyone else that you would be working with that would use e-commerce? So we make sure I have a little extra time to spend on e-commerce if we need to talk about that real quick.
I think that would be really useful to discuss.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it some for sure. I didn't know how much we might need to go over that.
I mean, I think a lot of people are, just because they figured out once COVID hit that they could start using it more, and like having a POS system and learning how to run it through your website can be a lot. So
it can be daunting for sure. Okay. So under appearances, let's see, themes, customize. We kind of went over most everything that we needed to go through there in general. So we'll skip, and I showed you just a wee bit about the media library when we looked at that other image. So we're going to skip any additional details on that, because those are kind of self-explanatory. That'll give us a little bit more time to talk about some of these other plugins, which also includes using WooCommerce. Yes, and Renee said, yep, she would like to go over this so you can use it in the future too. Cool. All right. So we're going to go now to install the plugins. And I have added a lot of extra plugins since we looked at this last. This is Elementor. This is our website builder. We are using the free version. If we wanted to go pro with this, it's $49 a year for one website and $99 a year for 3, I believe it is. And when we look at editing a couple pages in a bit, I'll show you some of those differences that the pro version has that the free version doesn't have. Loginizer, that's just, if you try to log into this website right now and miss it the first 3 times, and then it's gonna, and you try the 4th time, it's going to lock you out. That's just one of those things to prevent hacking. Really simple SSL, we set that up last time. Smush, and I gave you all of these on a list in the chat. It is an image file optimization. Starter templates, we needed those to get our starter templates, and you see here, there's a newer version of starter templates available. So if we wanted to update this, I'm not going to do it so that it doesn't take too much time, because occasionally they take a little time. I would simply click this to say I have this one or any other ones that I might need to update selected. I would go to bulk actions, tell it to update, and then click apply, which I'm not going to do at the moment. So it's really simple to do that. Within the last, I'm not sure exactly, about a year and a half ago, I believe it was, maybe a little longer, you can now enable auto update for almost any template you get. And that's really pretty handy to be able to auto update. You definitely want to auto update WordPress. Renee, this is an events calendar that I looked at because Saren had mentioned you had asked something about an events calendar. We'll come back to that in just a minute. Updraft Plus is probably the best free backup and restore. Real quick on the settings on it. Real quick, if we can be real quick here. There we go. Real quick on the settings on it. Right now, it says I have one backup that exists. This is where you can use your settings and say, I want to update it manually, or I want to update it every 2 hours, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, etc. And then your database backup. What I typically do, go back to here on these, is I will set most sites to update 2 weeks or monthly, depending on how often they are used. I will send one update, or every time it updates, I will send it to Dropbox. And if it's either one of my sites or one of my clients that I'm working for on a regular basis, I will also go over here and I will download the backups so that I have a secondary backup on my computer every 4 to 6 months, something like that. So I've got double backups. I've got them on Dropbox, and I've also got a set on my computers in case something happens to the Dropbox or the backups that are saved on your hosting service. Okay, so let's back that up. Where were we? Okay, backups. W3 total cache is a caching. It kind of helps save things so that your browser works faster. WordFence is a security. WP forms, if you need to build forms and it's not part of your builder. WPS hide login, I do not have that activated right now, because if I had activated it, you would go to login, and when you get up here to the top and you type in our domain and say WP-admin, what would happen, because this allows you to change WP-admin to something else. The reason being, in relation to security, if your site is trying to be hacked, that is the first place somebody's going to go. Your domain /WP-admin, they'll get your login page. If by chance they have your username, which because of the way website works, if you have a blog and have not changed your username from your blog name, they're going to be the same. So if you have a blog with your name on it, if that hasn't been changed in the background, then your blog username is the same as your login name. Then the only thing they have left to do is to find your password. So you can change here that instead of it saying WP-admin, you can make it anything you want. Then if someone says, oh, your site, for example, kjsmallbiz.com-WP-admin, they're going to get a 404 error saying there is no such page because I have this security plugin enabled with my specific letters, numbers, etc. behind the .com. That makes sense? So this is one I highly recommend. Yoast SEO is search engine optimization. This is the free version. You can do a lot with the free version. Okay, onward. Let's talk about this events calendar. So Renee, what I did in looking for an events calendar, I just went to Google and I typed in events calendars for WordPress. I looked at some of the reviews and this one came up repeatedly. So that's why I chose this events calendar. I looked at the name of it, the events calendar. So the way I added that is I went to add new. And this was, again, after I did my research on what events calendar I wanted to use. Type in the events. You probably don't even have to get the entire name. And somewhere down here, maybe I do need to type in the entire name, or maybe it's not coming up because I've already got the events, CALENDAR. There it is, the events calendar. And you can see that it says activate. That's because I've already got it installed. If I hadn't have it installed, it would say install now. So to do online bookings and find a plugin for online bookings, I would simply type in online bookings. I would look to see what they have offered. And in looking at this, again, I would look at several things. How high is it rated? How many active installations are there? Is it compatible with my version of WordPress? And how long ago was it since they updated it? If it were like this one, for example, 3 months or more, I would probably stay away from that one. And I would want to use one that's updated far more often. It looks like this one with this rating and actually no contact forms, Dragon Form Builder, but doesn't say it do events. We need to check to see if that one did events. So that's the way I would go. I would look at here to see what's available and also do a Google search. WP Forms we already have installed and activated, but let's say just for the fun, let's say we decided on, let's just do the online booking and scheduling calendar for WordPress. Let's just say for whatever the reason we did some research and we decided this was going to be a good one, we would say install now. Actually, you may not have chose that one because it's 5 months since it was updated, but for this purpose, just to show you how it's done, then click activate. And here it is, appointment booking and online scheduling. If for some reason we tried it and didn't like it, we go, wow, this isn't a good one. I've decided I want to use a different one. It doesn't work well for whatever the reason. You simply click deactivate. And yeah, no, we just don't want you there. So just deactivate, please. So now it's deactivated. And now we can select it. go to our actions. We want to delete it and then click apply. Yep, we do want to delete it. Now it's gone. So it's really pretty simple. You just have to do a little bit of research to find the ones that you want to use. Some builders, I don't know if Elementor Pro has one or not, but some builders may have them. I couldn't say for sure. I've never used one, nor have I set one up for any of my clients in a long, long time. Do you have any questions about that, Renee? Okay, so if you do have a question about it, go ahead and pop it in the chat and I'll stop in the middle of what we're, oh, okay, great. And if something comes up and you need some help along the way, feel free to send me an email if you have any additional questions. Okay, so we're going to jump from this website, which was our practice website. We're going to jump over here to another little website that I put together to show you some other things. And let's see, yeah, this is what this website looks like. When we install the template on our class website, it looks quite different from this one. This is an actual e-commerce template. And it was with the Astra theme. The name of this one is Simply Natural. Type that in here in case anyone is interested in the name of that, to look for it when you start playing with these things. So e-commerce website, you see that it has a store, contact, my account, and they're selling these cute little plants. So if we go down to one of these neat little plants and click on it, you can see it takes us to more information about that little plant. We can add it to our cart. We can view the cart and do all the things that you can do in relation to a cart and proceed to checkout. And when we click proceed to checkout on here, it's not going to let us do anything other than look at all of this stuff because it hasn't been set up with any actual information. And notice here that it says, sorry, it seems that there are no payment methods available. So where you would go to set up all of that information in relation to this little website to actually get this store to actually work. And it does take a bit of time, but you know, it's once you get it set up, it's not so bad. So that is a WooCommerce plugin. So we are back from that website. We are back in our dashboard. And the plugin that does that is WooCommerce. And you can see these things say it needs to be updated. Again, that's what those are for. So if we go to WooCommerce and look at the settings, this is where you start filling in all of that kind of information. So general information, this is where your business is located, tax rates, shipping rates, etc., etc. So that's where you fill in all of those kind of things, the kind of currency that you would use, etc. Save the changes. This is where you start putting in and filling in your products. And there are so many ways to fill in products. It's unbelievable. So this is where you pick the page, your actual website page that is considered your shop page. How many images that's on each of those pages, or if you need to go to additional pages. If you have downloadable products or your inventory, and this is where you would put in your inventory. You can enable stock management, which is pretty cool. This comes from my initial setup of this WordPress website. This is where the notifications are received. And this is a little bit different where, let's see, where's stock management? I'm going to have to look now. I didn't go back through this in a while. I haven't set one of these up in a while. Downloadable products, where do you put in actual products? Inventory, that's just inventory information. Oh, wait, that's going to be over here in orders, customers, coupons, reports, settings, status. Maybe it's an extension. Okay, I'm going to have to back up on that one and say I can't find shipping payments. Oh, this is where you put in all of your information, bank transfer, send checks, PayPal standard. I'm not sure. I think you have to add an additional plugin to get Square to work with WooCommerce, but there is a plugin that does that. And why I can't find where you put it. Oh, there it is. Products right there. Totally missed it. This is where you put in all of your products. It's another menu item underneath. So all products. And this is where you can see all the products that they have already in that little website. So if we wanted to edit this little money plant, quick edit, throw it in the trash, duplicate it, which is really cool because if you have a lot of products that are similar, then you duplicate one that you have already built. It saves a ton of time. We'll do a quick look at what happens under the edit menu of this. This is where you would put a description. It is a simple product versus a grouped product or an affiliate or a variable product. There's so many different options. General inventory shipping, there's a lot of options here. There's probably some really good YouTube videos on setting up a lot of this. That's where I would direct you to go when you get to this point, is to look at some of those specific YouTube videos. Does that answer most of the questions that you had about products as far as WooCommerce goes? And I will continue to talk about this a little bit. In relation to e-commerce, there are a lot of different ways. So this particular website, they have a lot of products, and they probably have numerous of each of these products. To set up a website that has a lot of products or numerous of each individual product, some kind of online e-commerce store like WooCommerce or Square that we discussed, or Shopify, we mentioned those briefly, that would be a really good way to go for your website. If you don't have a lot of, what kind of products do you have, Renee? Does it fit this or maybe something else? And are there plugins for QuickBooks to be attached as well? You know, for QuickBooks, I am not positive, but that would be a quick Google search to find out if you can use a plugin. I can't imagine that there's not something at this point, but I can't say for sure. Anyway, back to products. If you have a lot of products and similar products, this kind of WooCommerce, if you're using WordPress, would be the way to go. Otherwise, Squarespace or Shopify. If you only have a few products, this is a really nice option. So I'm going to take you to another website. This is some pieces of art that I sold last year. And what I did, because they're all individual pieces of art, I put the piece of art on the page, put some info about it. I've got more information on another page about it if anybody wants more info. But I put a buy now button, which I created in my PayPal. So with PayPal, I created a buy now button for this specific piece of art. And it was really quite easy. When someone wanted to buy this, they simply click on this, which because it's sold, it's not going to go anywhere. They immediately go to the PayPal payment portal to pay for this piece of art. Then I am notified and I ship it. So if you have individual one-ofs, this may be a better option for you. You can also do this with Square, depending on if Square or PayPal is your payment gateway. So just another option for setting up some kind of e-commerce. Okay, back to, so that kind of takes care of all of the plugins that we have in here, and obviously we don't have time to go over all of them. Let's go back and remember again on your menu at the top, if you want to visit your website and look at what's going on with it while you are still logged in WordPress, click visit site. And you see here, because we have the menu at the top, we're still logged in WordPress. If we want to edit any one of these pages, we can simply click that page and then say edit with Elementor, which is our builder. I have already done that right here. This is a practice page that we built and we're talking about earlier. Couple quick things, unless you guys have any questions. If you have any questions, please stop me, type something in the chat, or yell out. I want to show you a couple other quick things real here just as a review. When you hover over any specific area, you can see the blue line all the way around this. This is everything that's housed in this section. We can see that this section has a left-hand column and a right-hand column. We can see that this section has 3 columns. There's a left-hand, a middle, and a right-hand column. And what I would like to point out with this is the way browsers read web pages. When it starts here and it goes, this whole thing is 1 column, I'm going to look at all of this, no matter how wide the page is, or if it's on a mobile phone. When it gets down to here, it's going to go, oh, here's the next section. It will read this section all the way to the end of it. Then it will read this section all the way to the end of it. Then it will go to the next section down and read the first section on the left-hand side, the next section, and the next section. Is just something to keep in mind when you are planning on building your website and the flow of your material on a mobile device, which is going to look, it's not going to skip to mobile. There's a button here. Where is it? Responsive mode. Okay, so there's responsive mode. So showing what it's going to look like on a mobile. This column and this one was next. Then we go down the left, the center, and the right-hand column. So that's just something to keep in mind. Whoops. Something to keep in mind when you're building your website, that that's how these columns are going to look. Any other questions? Are there plugins for QuickBooks? Yep, read that one. Anything else in relation to any of this at the moment? Okay. When we talked about using Elementor, which is this builder, and the fact that we are using the free version, when we're looking at actually building things, content, let me get to add something new. If we're going to add something new, we're going to build another single. And all right, where did that? Oh, there we go. Sorry, wrong buttons all the way around. Okay, when we are building something with Elementor, we have here at the top under Elementor and all the options that we have. All of these options, adding image, adding buttons, videos, dividers, spacers, icons, Google Map, WordPress forms, all of these are part of the free version of Elementor. Where it says Pro, if we want to add any of these forms, such as an image gallery or particular type style of post, a pricing table, for example. So just for a quick look, let's say we want to add a button here. We just drag that over, and here is our button. But if we go back to the options on things that we can put in here under Pro, if we say, let's add a slider, oops, sorry, you can't use that. You have to pay for it in the Pro version. So depending on what you need on your website, some of these things will be handy. A few of them you can find as plugins, but for $49 a year, might be a lot more economical to do it here than to try to add it by way of a plugin. These general, most of these, well, I shouldn't say most, some are available with free and some are not. So if I wanted to add social icons, yep, that let me add social icons. But just to keep in mind, depending on what you want to do, the free version versus the paid version of Elementor, that's where you see the difference. And you can go to their website and see a lot of that information as well. Let me look at my list real quick and see containers and columns and home pages and edits and plugins. And I think that was everything I wanted to make sure that I touched on. Let me show you Renee's page really quick. It is so cool. Not Renee's, sorry, Renee, Allie's page. So under the practice pages, oh wait, before I do that, let me go back here, and this is what our practice page looked like. So just to give you a really cool idea of from this thrown together, here's all these things you can play with and the way this looks to what Allie built. Look how cool this is. Really nicely done. So anyway, just an idea of what you can do depending on what you have as a template looks like. You can really make a lot of changes to make it work like you want it to. Any other questions or anything? Oh, wow, only 5 minutes left. What else? Chime in, you guys. Saren, any thoughts, questions, or ideas that you would like to share? If there's something else you think that would be good for me to touch on over the last 5 minutes?
I don't know. I can't really think of anything else. You kind of covered the whole nine, and then also showing the example of what the page could turn into. As like now it makes sense as you're describing different portions, how it can be used practically, like
Yeah,
on the page.
yeah. And if you had only a couple items to sell or individual items to sell, you could actually build a page like this. And each one of these items could be, for example, one particular item to sell with this button or even a secondary button below it being a link to your PayPal that says buy now. So just because there's so many places that you can go to build a big e-commerce site, it doesn't necessarily mean you need it. And one of the cool things that I did, which worked really well for these art pieces that I sold, I put a link on, I posted it on Facebook. I had a link in Facebook that went to my website. And then you could look at it and go, oh, do I want it? How cool is that? Which was really nice because within 3 clicks, someone is already paying for it. So to do this, if you had an item for sale, post it on Facebook with a link in your Facebook text that takes you to this item on your website, either individual page or this page, with a buy now button right below it. And if there's not anything else, and we have a couple minutes, which we do, I'm going to pop open a new browser window, and I am going to say, can you integrate with WordPress and see what happens. And if I would have spelled it right, all of these are obviously ads. Integrating Word with QuickBooks, yep, add your customers to QuickBooks. So obviously there is some integration in here, how to do it with WordPress forms. Actually, WP Forms is one of the plugins that we already had in this site. So plugins that we had on our site, WP Forms Lite, you probably have to have the paid version of that. So that answers that question. Yes, there are some ways to do that. Cool. Good question. Thanks for asking that one. Anything else? So one thing that I would like to encourage you guys to do is if you have any questions about anything that we've gone over in class, please feel free to send me an email and ask questions. Whether you actually got to make it today or you're watching the class on the video, send me questions if you have questions. If you can, if I something I can help you with, I would be glad to. You're welcome, Renee.
Thank you so much, KJ.
You're welcome. Thank you. I appreciate being able to do it. I love teaching. That's one of my fun favorite things.
It's been a blast.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
You guys have a link to the, yes, I will send everyone a link to the recording. It takes a couple days for Zoom to get them processed. So once Zoom gets it processed and I get it stuck up on my YouTube account, I will send everyone a link.
Thank you for coming, Renee.
Yes, definitely, Renee. Thank you for being here. Bye, you guys.
Bye.